Taiwan plays the waiting game as the US and China carve out their tariff tactics. New immigrants speak out after Taiwan's government demands documents from thousands of Chinese spouses and their children. Unleash the drones. We explore the military's plan to boost Taiwan's domestic drone production. Plus, prayers for Myanmar on the streets of Taiwan as the country's Burmese-Chinese community rings in a somber new year. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. A key plan to help Taiwan's businesses has been delayed. That's as the US and China send mixed signals on electronics and chip levies. But as the tariff war continues, Taiwan's semiconductor industry may be getting some small benefits. Chris Gordon reports.
The details of Taiwan's tariff support plan for local businesses are on hold as Taipei tries to navigate Washington's ever-changing policies. Premier Zhuo Rongtai saying the final announcement of the nearly $3 billion plan has been pushed back a week. On Friday, the U.S. announced tariff exemptions on electronics like smartphones and computers, devices critical to Taiwan's export economy. But U.S. President Donald Trump now says there were no exceptions, calling it fake news, and announcing tariff investigations. The U.S.'s Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick tried to clarify the policy, saying specific tariffs for each product will be announced later, alongside special tariffs on semiconductors.
So all those products are going to come under semiconductors, and they're going to have a special focused type of tariff to make sure that those products get reassured.
Trump adding that the semiconductor tariffs are coming soon.
But the tariffs will be in place in the not distant future because, as you know, like we did with steel, like we did with automobiles, like we did with aluminum, which are now fully on, we'll be doing that with semiconductors, with chips. I'm going to be announcing it over the next week.
As Taiwan braces for U.S. tariffs, it may be getting an unexpected lift from China. Beijing has implemented tariffs of more than 100% on U.S. products. But its new rules on chips say product origin depends on where the silicon is made. That means chips from U.S. companies like NVIDIA and AMD will dodge China's tariffs.
就算在美国设计，但是在台湾做那个晶圆制造，它是会视为是台湾的那个半导体制造，或者 made in Taiwan。所以换句话讲，就是对于台湾而言，在晶圆制造这一方面的话，可能有相当大的一个优势。
It's still unclear how tariff chaos will ultimately impact Taiwan's economy. But for the moment, the uncertainty may offer it a quiet edge. Luffy Lee and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
For more on how personal electronic tariffs might impact Taiwan, Alec McDonald spoke to Chen Binghui from National Zhengzhi University in Taipei.
As the Trump administration is preparing for a special tariff on consumer electronics, how are companies preparing for a best and worst case scenario?
So I think for companies, they're moving toward the worst case scenario. They're preparing for the worst case scenario because the fact that the tariff was imposed on them, that means it is already beyond their imagination. It is not like what they imagined or what a Trump policy would be. So the intensity and the unpredictability of Trump's policy make these companies to do a preparation first. So I think these companies will anticipate a decrease of consumer confidence and a decrease of consumptions in the U.S. Therefore, they will decrease production ahead as well.
So is there even a best case scenario at all for Taiwanese companies?
So the best case scenario is that some of the consumer products that is especially needed by the ordinary people in the U.S., those products will be exempt using different ways, whether you change the country of origin or you just exempt the tax, the tariff for that category. Either way, there are some ways to exempt the tax that will make these companies, they don't have to raise the price in the U.S. consumer market.
Taking all of that uncertainty into account, is there anything that we have definitively learned so far?
There is a incoherent view within Trump's team. So that's something that we need to pay attention. I think whether the Trade Representative Office and the White House and Congress, they will force the Trump administration to put out different policies. I think this will be the key.
That was Chen Binghui, professor at National Zhengzhi University in Taipei. President Lai Ching-te is looking to strengthen Taiwan's ties with the U.S. as the two countries negotiate on trade.
台湾政府也已经跟美国政府展开谈判，第一阶段的谈判过程也顺利。那我们是希望利用这一次的挑战，也能够再一次的化为台湾的机会所以我们要推动台湾加一。 也就是台湾加美国的新布局。
Taiwan is seeking to avoid a 32% tariff on its exports to the U.S. announced as part of Donald Trump's tariff plan. Last week, Trump suspended those tariffs for 90 days, but says special tariffs on semiconductors, Taiwan's largest industry, may come as soon as this week. Chip giant TSMC is estimated to have made more than $10 billion in profit in the first quarter, a 54% rise from the same period last year. Financial analysts cited by Reuters also predicted the Taiwanese company will continue to invest in its overseas facilities, including in the US, Japan, and Germany. The prediction comes ahead of TSMC's official earnings report on Thursday. The company previously said it could spend up to $42 billion this year, an increase of 41%. Taiwan's immigration authorities are asking over 10,000 Chinese people in Taiwan to provide supplemental documents to retain their legal status in the country. One youth group has spoken out against the move, calling it irrational and unrealistic. Untimely, unfair, and unrealistic. A civic group representing the second generation of Taiwan's so-called new immigrants is speaking out against the government's recent request for additional documentation.
我们需要的是一个愿意承认行政瑕疵、行政疏失、愿意聆听修复的社会、愿意聆听跟修复的制度。
Last week, Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, which governs relations between Taiwan and China, revealed it had requested over 10,000 Chinese spouses and their children who have settled in the country to provide proof that they had given up their household registration in China in order to keep their legal status in Taiwan.
那已明确规定，台湾人民不论先来后到，取得台湾身份多久都不能同时拥有对岸的身份。如果有，就必须择一。
At the heart of this issue is household registration. Household registration and citizenship are two different things. In Taiwan, people need to register a local address to enjoy full civil and political rights like voting. Usually, foreign nationals must renounce their original citizenship and become naturalized before they can do this. Chinese nationals, however, are subject to a different process as they are not treated as foreigners under the Constitution. They only need to cancel their household registration in China before they can be issued a Taiwanese ID card and enjoy those rights. The government said it found no such records for over 10,000 Chinese spouses and their children living in Taiwan. Though the requirement is not new and was put in place in 2004, they said these cases have admittedly slipped through the cracks.
在疫情期间，很多陆配他已经嫁来台湾了，他拿到身份，可是他不方便回去，没办法回去，所以我们那个时候是给大家宽限期。那疫情之后，我们就要请大家回去拿，然后，但是在疫情之前，也是还有一些人。 他迟迟没有回去的，所以我们就开始往前追溯。
The government is now giving those 10,000 people 3 months to submit the required documents. Though certain people have been granted exemptions, including those who are unable to return to China for political or health reasons, and those who have not gone back for more than 10 years. However, the youth group says that the 3-month time frame is unacceptable and that the request itself is unreasonable.
目前设定的3个月，对这些当事人来讲，其实感到十分不合理，因为这个时间忽略了两岸的行政差异，还有两岸的制度所带来的落差，邮寄的时间，然后还有行政拿到公文盖章的时间，那最后到达台湾的时间，他们也不能保证是不是能够赶得到在这3个月。
TaiwanPlus reached out to the Mainland Affairs Council for comment, and it said that many people have already gone back to China to apply for documentation. It's still collecting information on exceptional cases that may require extensions and will adjust the policy as needed. Some of the affected people have been living in Taiwan for decades. They've set up lives here and settled down. But now the clock is ticking for them to find a way to cement their legal status in Taiwan. Justin Wu and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. Taiwan's military says having enough attack drones and a strong independent supply chain is essential to the country's defense plan. Local news outlet Liberty Times has cited sources inside the military saying it plans to leverage drones to create what U.S. officials describe as a hellscape in the Taiwan Strait. This would involve using large numbers of uncrewed systems to deter a Chinese invasion. Taiwan says it plans to greatly increase mass production of 2 types of domestically made attack drones. One is the Jianxiang, a loitering munition with a range of over 1,000 kilometers. The other is a short-range loitering munition designed to circle the battlefield before striking its target. For more on this so-called drone hellscape and how Taiwan is boosting its drone strategy, Jaime Okan spoke to Kelly Grieco, security analyst at the Stimson Center based in Washington, D.C.
We're seeing now this pretty big push from Taiwan to develop drones and produce these systems at a pretty large scale. What does that tell you about how Taiwan views its defense strategy?
It tells me 2 things, really. One is that Taiwan is paying attention to lessons of the Ukraine war and realizing that mass, meaning superior numbers, is really critical on the modern battlefield. And so the idea of being able to mass produce these is exactly right in terms of where the character of war is going. The other thing it tells me is that the United States and Taiwan are both coming closer to being on the same page about what a future fight could potentially look like. Because the United States is talking about a hellscape as a way to try to deter China and defend in a contingency. And it looks like Taiwan is slowly moving more in that direction as well, recognizing that at least for an early part of a fight, that's going to be a critical part of it.
So far, we've seen a lot of work on drones that operate in the air, but when it comes to this hellscape strategy that many people are talking about, what does that mean for Taiwan? Does this mean that we need different kinds of drones or unmanned systems?
This is the right idea in that we need different types of drones. They do different things, and range becomes really important. So the longer range ones would allow potentially to threaten to destroy a target much further away from Taiwan's soil itself. So this could be, say, ships that are leaving a harbor, for example, to try to disrupt operations before they really get underway. And really, when you look at the hellscape concept, it is multi-domain. So it is about, yes, you want to have air-based drones that are operating in the air that create all these kinds of problems for an adversary, but you'd want to have surface drones and also subsurface drones. And so it's really that whole combination. You imagine if you were facing that kind of threat environment, how complex it is about knowing where to defend, where to look for the adversary, and anything that adds to that complexity makes operations really, really difficult for anyone that's going to try to dare to go on offense. And that's exactly the idea here with hellscape.
So now that Taiwan is mass producing these kinds of systems at a large scale, what's the next step for the military to improve on this drone strategy?
I would say that if you're looking about what are the things that can be done in the short term that would actually have really large payoffs in terms of strengthening deterrence and defense, those are the things that I would focus on. And I think some of that would be about things at the lower end that can actually really complicate an adversary's ability to operate. especially things that you could very quickly get into production and then be able to scale up rapidly. So things that are at the higher end, it's going to take longer to be able to develop those and then scale them up. So I would be focusing on sort of the low to medium end to really try to create a robust deterrent and defense.
That was Kelly Grieco, security analyst at the Stimson Center. Coming up after the break, hopes for democracy fade in Hong Kong as its last major opposition party comes a step closer to totally disbanding.
At Connected, we believe in the power of dialogue.
Taipei 101.
It's not just about the headlines, it's about finding common ground. Join the conversation.
Connected with Divya Gopalan on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Ed Moon in Taiwan's Jinmen Islands, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, the voice of freedom in Asia.
人生的话，你发现说，我们大部分都是爱美的。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性。
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, follow TaiwanPlus on socials. Pika!
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. 2 weeks after a deadly earthquake struck Southeast Asia, Taiwan's Burmese-Chinese community is marking their new year. But with thousands dead and displaced back in Myanmar, the celebration has become a time for prayer. Tiffany Wong has more.
Thingyan, or Myanmar New Year, is a holiday known for its lively music, dancing, and water fights meant to wash away misfortune. But this year's festivities were somber in Taiwan. New Taipei's Burmese-Chinese community are praying for loved ones in Myanmar after a magnitude 7.7 earthquake devastated the country, killing over 3,000 people and displacing tens of thousands more.
主要的活动是希望在这里表达我们对缅甸受灾的这些灾民的关心。我们已经在2个礼拜之内募集到差不多20万美金，而且也把这些钱送到最前沿给灾民。
Volunteers wove in and out of crowds, calling for donations, and passersby tied pieces of yellow string to trees in prayer.
New Taipei's Little Myanmar is only a few blocks long, but for the over 100,000 Burmese-Chinese living in Taiwan, it's a special gathering place, and vendors and visitors are out in droves for the New Year's festivities. But although they're celebrating their heritage with vibrant food and dress, for many, their hearts are with their family and friends back in Myanmar.
Some restaurants offered free meals to warm the community with a taste of home.
其实我们店家呢，每一年泼水节都会上市，就是会请这街坊邻居来，就是免费这样子吃饭。所以虽然是因为地震没有在泼水，但是我们的善心还是有啦。
Some community members who typically perform in the New Year's festivities stayed off stage, instead focusing on prayer.
那你觉得今年的活动是很不一样？
很不一样，
心里也是很感受，对那边的大地震是很严重，有一些亲戚朋友是有被压死，对，这样子。
It's a feeling echoed in Mandalay, the central Myanmar city near the epicenter of the tremor. In a country already torn by 3 years of civil war, the ruling military junta has banned music and dance during the holiday. With the full cost of March's earthquake still unknown, many people in Myanmar face a difficult year. But in all the uncertainty ahead, they can count on the continued support of friends and loved ones in Taiwan. Eason Chen and Tiffany Wong in New Taipei City for TaiwanPlus.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in Hanoi for a 2-day visit to Vietnam. Xi will meet with the Communist Party chief To Lam and other top officials on his second visit to Hanoi in 18 months. Vietnam is a major strategic and a trading partner for China. The visit comes as China grapples with 145% tariffs on exports to the U.S. and as Vietnam negotiates with the U.S. to avoid high tariffs that take effect in July. After visiting Vietnam, Xi will also travel to Malaysia and Cambodia. At least 34 people are dead and 117 wounded after a Russian missile strike on the Ukrainian city of Sumy. It's the deadliest attack by Russia so far this year.
Мы в центре города живем. Тут военная база нет, легитимный военный чел нет. Просто геноцид. Геноцид.
The attack happened while people were out celebrating Palm Sunday. 2 ballistic missiles hit the city center near the State University and Congress Center, leaving bodies scattered in the streets. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is urging world leaders to speak out against the strike. It comes amid U.S.-led ceasefire talks. Hong Kong's last remaining major opposition party has taken a key step towards disbanding. It's been facing increasing pressure ever since China imposed a controversial national security law on the city. Rosie Greninger has more.
A familiar route for Emily Liao, travelling to Hong Kong's Stanley Prison, a trip the former Democratic Party chair often makes to see ex-colleagues now behind bars. Many of her party's members, including former chair Albert Ho, were jailed on national security charges in 2020 after Beijing imposed sweeping laws.
And he's been there, he's been locked up for over 1,000 days. So I feel very, very sorry for Albert. And he's a very, very patriotic person. He knows China inside out, he's been to Del Yutai 4 times. And look at his fate.
The Democratic Party was born in 1994, 3 years before Britain handed Hong Kong back to Chinese rule. Their mission, to hold leaders accountable to promises under the one country, two systems model, for Hong Kong to retain a high degree of autonomy and eventually hold free and fair elections for its top leader. The party led pro-democracy movements for decades, but in 2019, China moved to silence dissent in the city amid widespread protests, restricting elections and imposing media censorship. It escalated in 2020 when Beijing imposed a national security law used to jail 4 Democratic Party ex-lawmakers, making it nearly impossible for the party to survive. And its members are now voting to disband.
Today, our members passed this resolution of allowing the Central Committee to proceed with the dissolution follow-ups with vast majority vote.
The preliminary vote saw 90% of members present electing to allow its leaders to dissolve the party. But this is not the final step.
In the coming few months, I hope, there will be another general meeting that we actually will get that motion into debate and vote.
As the party decides its next steps, Liao has not given up on its mission, saying she's open to dialogue with Beijing.
The game is not over. I will carry on, and I hope Hong Kong people will carry on. But of course, before the might of the Communist Party, it's not easy.
Under Chinese rule, many smaller pro-democracy parties and civic groups have closed. And now with the city's largest opposition party taking key steps towards disbanding, Liao just hopes those imprisoned pro-democracy leaders know they will not be forgotten. Eason Pan and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
The first hearing of former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's criminal trial is underway in Seoul. Yoon faces charges that his declaration of martial law last December amounted to an insurrection. That's punishable by life imprisonment or the death penalty, though South Korea hasn't executed anyone in decades. Yoon has denied all charges. South Korea's Constitutional Court removed Yoon from office earlier this month. It ruled his actions as a serious violation of his powers and a threat to democracy. A fire that broke out late Monday morning in a popular mountain national park in northern Taiwan has been extinguished, according to the local fire service. Several hiking trails on Yangmingshan remain closed to the public, and officials are warning people to stay indoors to avoid smoke pollution. Dozens of firefighters, as well as Interior Ministry rescue helicopters, helped to control the 40-hectare blaze fanned by dry weather and strong winds. No casualties were reported, and the cause of the fire is being investigated. And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Before we go, we're heading to Poland, where people carry long, decorated palms in a procession to mark the beginning of Easter. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.